So I'm gonna start with some of the changes that we made to kind of like the landscape. And what I'm doing is building like a kind of like a hedge essentially, but I'm using like fruit trees in addition to shrubs to do it. So this is kind of where we started with some of the trees that we had before. And this is like the long view of what this looks like. Now the sun is setting, so if y'all can't see, I'm sorry about that. But I planted some shrubs here just to kind of give like a little bit of a privacy hedge. I just moved this one. Initially I had it on the other side, and I put it here instead because I put a lime tree in the spot that I had this in. So basically we'll come in and just kind of fix this little area here, but this will provide a little bit of privacy for the patio from the street. Like, it just gives a little bit more privacy from the street. And all of these little shrubs that you see, those will probably get to anywhere from like 6 to 8 feet tall and roughly about 3 feet wide, 3 to 4 feet wide. So when they get up there, they will do the job. This is a Satsuma mandarin. I actually just purchased this week, I think, well, in the last week. And it has little fruit buds on it. I feel like, you know, citrus just came out of its season, so I do honestly think those are going to drop. But so my camera cut off. I thought I was prepared. I guess I wasn't. But so this is the Satsuma mandarin. I was saying that I think that although it has some little citrus buds on it, it might be where they will actually fall off before they like flower again and prepare for an actual fruit later in the year. We just came out of citrus season, so I highly doubt that these are going to stay on here very long. But I am excited about this particular tree because I've been wanting this tree for a very long time, and I actually found it at Lowe's. So that was a surprise to see. So I've noticed that the, like, I guess big box stores, they're getting a little bit better about, I guess, following like social media trends, or, you know, bringing in new varieties every year for people to purchase. So I'm starting to find like a lot of things that I typically, I guess, wouldn't find in a store readily like accessible. So I was happy about that. This wasn't the only thing I found. Like, one of the stores had like cilantro in it. They had some like other things. So they're getting a little bit more like exotic. Even with like the seeds that you purchase from them, you're starting to see like a wider variety of seeds available. And I think that's pretty nice, because not all the time do you want to pay shipping for something to get it sent to you, even though you may want it. And especially with these fruit trees, the shipping can be just a little bit like off-putting. So I was happy to find that. And I think I paid, how much for this plant here? Was it $50? Yeah, so $49.98 was the price, which I didn't think was too bad for a tree that's gonna fruit this year. Even though it's a smaller tree, it should grow quite a bit over the next few months and then still put on fruit as a first year for me. The next thing we have is one of our blueberry plants, and this is my Tiff Blue blueberry plant. This plant is taller than me now, and it's only been in the ground for, I want to say, about 7 or 8 months. So this is how much it's actually grown since it's been in the ground. I think the growth habit for this one is roughly about like 8 feet or something high, like 8 feet high and about 4 feet wide. And these are all of like the blueberry blossoms that are going to be coming out. It seems like some of them actually broke off already and maybe already getting pollinated, so that's pretty nice. I'm so ready for my blueberries, and I'm excited to actually have them in the ground so that we can maximize like on production for what we get out of the plants. Now this particular plant, this is my Centurion blueberry, and oh, it has a little Charlotte's Web in it. I don't know if y'all can see that. Now this plant had a struggle of a winter. I didn't really take care of it that greatly. It was in a pot when like all of my blueberry plants were in pots last year, but this particular one was kind of like away from the rest of them, and it was just like not getting any type of TLC not getting water, not getting really any sunlight, which, you know, that wasn't it just wasn't good. But I tried to salvage it, and thankfully the plant is still alive, but it is not budding. It is not like looking like it's gonna put on fruit this year. So I don't know if, you know, with the stress that I put the plant under, if we'll actually get any fruit off of this plant this year at all. What I'm thinking is going to happen is it's gonna put on leaves. It's probably gonna focus on growing, which, you know, once it's in the ground and it has like the room to spread, like this grows pretty quickly, like as you can see. But I just think that the plant was under so much stress over the winter that I might have like set it back, or, you know, put it in a place where it's just going to be dormant for a whole year. And if that happens, that's okay. But at least it's in the ground, at least it's alive, and, you know, I'm happy about that, because I definitely lost a tree. And that was my key lime. So, you know, that was from, again, not taking care of the plant more so through winter and covering it up properly, you know, for it to survive the cold temperatures that we had. Like, this is one of the coldest, like, winters we probably had since I've been here. It just made it where everything was really delayed in waking up this particular year, because usually by now I would have been harvesting like herbs like multiple times. These trees would have had like all their buds, kind of like how the tiff blue does, and then you know, raspberries. I would have even had like raspberries now. My raspberries are just now like putting on leaves. So, you know, it was a really cold winter for us, and I think the trees just, they weren't ready for it, and neither was I. So this is my Meyer lemon. She did fruit for me this year that passed in December, like November, December. Those lemons were so good. I think this plant has undergone some stress as well. Like, it's in its I guess this will be like, what, maybe it's been in the ground how long? Almost coming up on a year, I think. And it's definitely grown since it's been in the ground. You can kind of see like the tree branches are getting really thick. I'm a little concerned about it disease wise, and I say that because like you can see like all these limbs that are kind of dying off here. I do need to trim it. We got some stuff going on here. Now I don't know if that is like the tree that is, you know, kind of going like this, where it's, you know, this part is like dying off so that it can then shoot out like new branches for growth on you know, this season that's coming, like the end of this year, or if I should be concerned. But I'm probably going to go ahead and spray it. I do need to trim it. I was trying to wait for the tree to die completely back before I do that. And yeah, I'm a little concerned about it though, if I'm being honest, because I really don't know what to make of that. So over here in these two spaces, I have two more blueberry plants. This is a pink lemonade blueberry. This will be the first year it's fruiting for me. I think I got this like a little close to its production season last year, maybe like a little after. So the plant, while it has grown, it hasn't really grown a ton, but it is putting on some fruit, so it'll be nice to get a few of these blueberries this year. I'm not expecting anything like super great from it, but something is always better than nothing. And then this tree I actually got this year, and it looks like I need to water it. Looks like yeah, the leaves feel a little dry, so I'll probably have to come over and water this. But this is the powder blue. So this particular variety is supposed to be like a later fruiting blueberry. Now, what I've noticed about blueberries here, they do not fruit when they say they are supposed to. The Tiff Blue is supposed to be kind of like late May, June. I believe my Centurion is actually supposed to be like midsummer. And then the pink lemonade is supposed to be fall. And then this one is supposed to be like late summer. I feel like we're going to get fruit much earlier than that. Last year, I got my not Centurion, the Tiff Blue blueberries. I got them around like April, like late April, May. And then the Centurion actually started fruiting in May, and we got those between May and June. This plant here is a blood orange plant. Now, why am I trying to grow this in my zone? I don't know, y'all, but I'm gonna try. And so far I've had some challenges with it. I put it in the ground. It seemed like it was doing okay, but I think I put it in the ground a little too soon for its height. You can see it starting to flower, but you can also see I'm getting a lot of that like die off, the same way I'm getting on the Meyer lemon. I've had to cut like this stalk down a few times. I cut off another stalk on this plant too because it seemed like it was getting diseased, and I don't want the disease to spread through like the vascular system in the plant, but you know, I don't know what to make of that right now. I think I might have just put it in the ground too young. Typically our grounds stay pretty wet here. You know, it's good for the plants because I don't really have to water as much. But when we have drought, which we have had at this point now, I don't think it's rained really like that probably but once in like 2 weeks. So all of the plants actually need watering, especially these that are on this side because they're on a slope, and being on the slope, the water all runs off into like the middle as opposed to staying in the plant. But I can see that this plant in particular is quite dry, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it a little bit of water so we can make sure that our flowers don't die off and, you know, the plant is not suffering while it's trying to produce fruit. I have a little flower bed over here. I freaking love this flower bed, y'all. So these are snapdragons. I actually planted these last year, was the first year that they flowered, but these are second year snapdragons. So the plants like reseeded themselves, or either, I think maybe for us they might even be perennials. I thought they were annuals, but it seems like the plant came up in some of the same places, and now we have these like really beautiful, really long stalks, and they're getting ready to flower. They've been like looking like they're ready for like the last week or so, and I can't wait to see what they look like when they open up. Last year they did open up, but they opened up really, really small, so we'll see what happens. I think they do this when they need either a little water or they're trying to like follow the sun. It seems like in the afternoon they turn to like the way the sun is actually setting. During the day when the sun is like on this side is on this side, they are facing the other way, or they're straight up. So, and then we have some mums in here, some tulips. I actually separated my tulips last year. Was it last year? It might have even been this year. And we actually spread them out, so now I have multiple tulips, and I think I'll keep doing that so that we can continue to harvest, or at least enjoy our tulips and make them work for us. So that was like a $2 plant that now I have multiple tulips throughout the garden. Dianthus, I bought some more dianthus to have around the garden. I freaking love these. These things are so pretty. They can get really big, just like the mums, and these are the mums here. But when they do and they bloom, they are beautiful. And then these are petunias. So these are called candy stripe petunias, and when I say I am absolutely in love with these, y'all, these are gorgeous. They remind me of like the Pericalis, and I love Pericalis. I've been having that plant in my garden for like the last, I would say 2 to 3 years, maybe even since I started a garden. And this was the first year I did not. I don't know if the plant got so popular that they just thought to charge an arm and a leg for it, but yeah, and I just wasn't prepared to pay $20 for the Pericalis. Like, it did come with like a nice little basket or whatever may have you, but when I could take $20 and get multiple flowers, I was like, I still kind of want it, and I may decide to go back and get it and see where I can fit it into the garden, because I really, really do like that plant. But I am really happy with these. These things are gorgeous, and I think I got those at Lowe's too. Here is some more of the tulips. So I planted some over in this little pot, and then I'll show y'all where I have like the rest of them in the bag that I planted, or that I separated. I do have some, I think it was like red ones or something, that I put into a pot. Oh, here they go. They're on my like messy little seed table here, and these have bloomed already. They've died, so when I get a few extra minutes, I will go ahead and separate those bulbs out wherever I want to plant them next year. They really say you should do it like immediately after the tulip finishes flowering and dies off, so that the bulb can kind of get set over winter and then prepare itself for its blossom next spring. But I have a lot of other stuff on my plate, so yeah, that's gonna have to wait a few minutes. So this is my messy seed area. Of course, this looks like this every year. This is nothing new, but I did go ahead and invest in some seed trays, probably a little bit too late for this season. When I say too late, meaning later than I should have to actually start plants, and all my plants are behind because of that. Now, I did start some seeds on time, the ones that I typically struggle with, which are like peppers and eggplants and that kind of stuff. And when I say struggle, I mean, if you've been around for any number like of years, or if you've heard me say, if you watch enough of my videos, I am not your seed starting transplant kind of gardener. I need the seed to go in the ground and survive. That is kind of like where I am with that. But reality is, like I said, we've been having these like really, really rough winters that just have not permitted that. When I first started gardening, I got away with some stuff. These days, it's just not going down like that for me. So I've been having to seed start a little bit more, but also I just didn't have the proper setup for it. So I'm investing a little bit in the setup. I invested in the trays, which we have here. I did get these from Bootstrap Farmer. I see that a lot of people are starting to use these. I've been really loving them so far, especially for the fact that I can pick up all the trays and actually just move one tray at one time. The fact that I can water them, without overwatering my seedlings, which, at this point, I think, how long I've been gardening for? Almost 4 years now, and I still haven't gotten it down. Like, I will kill a seedling. I have several that have just damped off because I think they need water. They really don't need water, and it just, I don't know. More practice is needed. But I kept some of the pots that I used, like I got from like the stores and stuff. So like these, I did pick up some starts this year because once I realized that for one, most of my pepper seeds did not come up, and two, it felt to me like my cabbage starts and my broccoli starts, they were not moving as quickly, or like they just were not really growing. I was a little concerned, so I did pick up a couple of starts. They had them like $6 for $6 at Home Depot, and I picked up one tray of broccoli, one tray of cauliflower. But then this is what ended up happening with mine. So they are a little bit behind the ones that I got from the store, but then these two, which are cauliflower, those I also got from the store. And I don't know what they did with the cauliflower this year, but for some reason their cauliflower is not really doing the greatest. But the broccoli that I did get from the store, the starts, these are doing pretty okay. So this is where they are. They got like a nice feeding yesterday, and they're doing pretty well. These were mustards that I started. If y'all can see, I hope y'all can see that through this like little net here. The white Russian kale, I started those, and in the back, those are cauliflower that I also got from the store. You can see that they're growing a little bit better on the side, but really not that much better. I have one that seems like it wants to do something. I don't know what they did, and I'm talking about like the people that grew the starts. There were some things coming up out of like the peat moss that these plants were planted in, and I think it was interfering with their ability to like establish their roots. So when I saw it and I pulled it out, it seemed like the plants wanted to start growing. But at the stage that we are now, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really expecting a great ton from the cauliflower. The broccoli I think will be fine. The cabbages, so the cabbages that I planted, these two red ones here, I had another red one in here. I pulled it out because they were just like too close together. This one kind of like behind this like second green one with all the holes, and then this one here I planted. Like, this is mine. The other ones are from the store, and they seem to be doing pretty okay. I think one of the things that I'm doing differently this go around is just making sure that I keep the plants watered really well, because they need a lot of water. And then I make sure I stay on top of fertilizing with both the water soluble fertilizer and then, you know, side dressing the beds. I also have some like beets in here, which those were pretty slow to take off too. And then I finally got some that really like took off, so I should be able to harvest these pretty soon. These decided they wanted to grow, and then I went ahead and planted more seeds in here. So I want a lot of beets. I like to use the beets for juicing. So I'm hoping to get quite a bit of those. Now, beets are supposed to be a fall crop for us. Like, you can grow them in the spring, but they're supposed to grow better in the fall, you know, in general. I find that in this particular zone where I am, they tend to grow best in the spring. I will try to grow them in the fall. I have grown them in the fall, but I get my best beets in the spring. They really need that like those long daylight hours. And the other thing, if you do need some tips on growing beets, which a lot of people don't really talk about it, it's just something that I've learned over time, and why it's in the bed with the cabbages. They need nitrogen. Even though it's a root crop, and root crops typically, you know, need a lot of phosphorus to form their bulbs, beets in particular thrive off of nitrogen. When I am in the bed and I get the amount of nitrogen in there that you would need to feed like cabbages and stuff, that's when they take off. So if you didn't know that, that is something to note when you're growing beets. Make sure your beds are really filled well with nitrogen. If you've ever grown this white Russian kale, let me know what you think of it. So I purchased these seeds, I want to say a few months ago. And when I say I have tried to germinate these plants in the fall and in the spring, and out of all the plants I planted, only one seed actually germinated. And I feel like that's a little disappointing for, you know, what you pay for seeds these days. So I am going to, when this plant does decide to actually go to seed, I'm going to attempt to save seed and hope that, you know, the fact that it's grown here plays a part in it doing a little bit better. But thank goodness I was able to save this plant, because this particular plant, it was so tiny. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to put it in here with this stuff. The same with the mustards too. It's like they just were not growing. And I put them in here, and then this is what they look like now. So I'm so happy that they finally started growing, and that I'll finally get to taste this like white Russian kale, because, you know, I've tried to germinate probably about 25 seeds at this point, and have only gotten one plant to actually come up and do something. So what else we're growing right now, we have a bed full of kind of like brassicas, peas. I have some radishes in here, and then I have my zucchini started for the summer. I'm probably not going to go through all of the plants that we have here, but I'll share, like, I'm growing some new things I've never grown before. So this is the Palermo, is that what it says? Yeah, Palermo white zucchini. I have a golden zucchini. I have an anonymous zucchini, because I planted these and swore I was going to come back and actually write down what it was, and I never did that. And then this is a cue ball. This is a cue ball, and that is a round zucchini. Now, I had something else there. I feel like it was the costata. It was the costata romanesco, and that particular plant died. It damped off. I guess it was too wet in his bed. I don't know how, but I guess it was too wet in the bed, and it damped off. So I ended up putting that one there. That was a start that I had started. We have some spinach and some rutabagas and kohlrabi that we're growing in this bed also. These are going to be Milanese. Is that how you say that? Milanese radishes. daikon radishes. I think they're Milanese radishes, not daikon. And of course I have my peas. So the peas are another testament to just how terrible of a winter that we've had. I've always been harvesting peas by like the end of February, and this is where my pea plants are. These plants have been planted for probably a good 2 months now, and this is about as good as it gets. I've seen a couple of aphids on them, so I think the plants were stressed because our temperatures were fluctuating like up and down. It would be really cold one day, 70 degrees the next day, you know, and just it was like that. So it's like the plants are confused and we haven't got any peas yet. So I'm hoping that at least in like the next month we can get something, because those are gonna have to come out soon for when it's time to get the tomatoes in. I have some more cabbages over here that I started that seem like they're starting to try to take off just a little bit. These are, I believe, Napa cabbages, like a Napa hybrid. And then these are minuet cabbages. And you can see I planted both of these at the same time. And this is where these are compared to this. So they're supposed to both be fast growing varieties. And, you know, I don't know. We'll see what happens. It doesn't seem very fast to me. You know, I will say this one was like that maybe a couple of days ago, and now this is where it's at. So I'm not sure what's going on with this one, but it seems like this one wants to do something. I transformed this bed here, which was a grow bed. I've grown potatoes in here, lemongrass, sweet potatoes, all types of stuff. But I finally decided to move my mammoth raspberry because it hasn't really done well in the baskets, like the whiskey barrels that we had them in. And then I decided that I was going to turn this into a strawberry bed. I really want a good amount of strawberries. I want to be able to eat them at least fresh. I don't think we have enough spacing for us to get like, you know, harvest where we can kind of do a bunch of preserving with, or, you know, like jam making and all this other stuff. But as long as we get to eat them fresh, I'm okay with that, where I can have like strawberries at least like, you know, 2 times a week throughout whatever grow season that they're going to give me. The ones on this side are everbearing. These are Hanoi and these are June bearing. I do have some more in a green stalk over here, and some of these, the majority of them, I'm pretty sure are jewel strawberries. So I have 2 June bearing varieties, and then I have the everbearing variety. The everbearing variety, I can't remember the name of it actually. If I remember, if I can find it in the receipt, I'll post it like on the screen. But these are the jewel strawberries. So it is time for me to water these again. I did water them in really, really well when I put them in here, but because they're new plants, I just have to stay on top of watering to make sure they get off the ground the way they need to. These are not doing as good as quickly as the Hanoi ones did, so they look like they're struggling a bit. But I will say, they also, I wasn't too happy with the roots that I got sent for this particular variety. I ordered these from Gurney's, and unlike the other 2 where they gave me like really, really nice size strawberry roots, a lot of these were like really puny and just didn't look that great. So I'm seeing the results of that. Like these were in the ground probably a day before those. They could have even gone in the same day. And these are the Hanoi. So you can see that the majority of them already like green and about to put out their fruit runner. And these I got maybe like a week and a half before, and these are already fruiting, you know, like we have strawberry flowers on them already. Right by this strawberry bed, I also have my I believe this is my Autumn Bliss raspberry, and then I planted some of the extra like strawberries that I didn't have space for in here. I've tried to make sure that I wasn't like messing with the crown here. Now I'm not entirely certain why this particular strawberry looks like this. I just watered this, so it's definitely not dry. But you can see the other ones are thriving, and the Autumn Bliss raspberry is waking up as well. But another one of the changes we did make to the garden were the green stalks. So I tried to add like vertical growing to my landscape, and part of the reason I did that was because when we did this like project to transform the garden, in part it was due to, you know, just kind of like HOA rules and making the garden look more aesthetically like pleasing, less of an eyesore type of thing. So one of the things I did to try to transition out of using so many of these bags was invest in the green stalks. So I still have the bags, I still plan to use them just a little bit, but I thought that was a better medium to use the green stalks, especially because obviously I can still grow, I can grow more things, but there is some benefit to having like some of these bags for plants that I maybe want to isolate, or but still need like another but they still need like a good amount of room to grow, like zucchini or something like that, or cucumbers or tomatoes or whatever. So I did decide to keep just a few of them, but these are the raspberry green stalks, and they had a sale on Valentine's Day that I got. For every basic green stalk, you got one of these, which is like kind of like a short one. So I ended up purchasing 2 of the basic ones, and then I have 2 of the shorter ones. Now you can combine them, like if I wanted to, I can combine these, make this another like really large green stalk, and or just add tiers to these basic ones, so I can have like the 7-tier one. But I decided not to do that because how I'm using this is, one, it adds a little bit of decor to like the center of the garden, and the other thing is when I have crops like what I'm growing here, fennel, right, I can put the fennel around the whole row and not have to worry about it interfering with what's above it. So I have the 2 bottom rows on this, they're fennel, and then I have some onions up top. Fennel does not play nice with anything else. It really can kind of stunt the growth of any of your other plants. So the roots are really aggressive and they go really deep. I did put an nasturtium here. I'm going to see how this does. This was an experiment, and I only say that because whatever was here did not germinate. So I do have a couple of spaces where these didn't germinate, and I can't put anything else there. So I may go ahead and just put flowers in and see how they do. The other thing I'm thinking about doing is I had planted some fennel in here too, and you can see only 2 of I think like the 5 or 6 plants I put in here came up. So I don't want to waste like a whole bag for 2 fennels, and then when I can just transfer it over here in this open space and then use that for something else. In this bed we have garlic. Now I have 2 types of garlic. One of the well, actually 3 types of garlic, but there's 2 types in this bed. Of course, I'm growing the Encellium red garlic. That was the first garlic I was introduced to, and it really has been my favorite to grow, my favorite to eat, favorite as far as like flavor so far. Like, it's a really pungent garlic flavor, but it's still semi-mild, and I say mild in a sense of not spicy, right? What's the leg? But I am growing an early Italian red, which that is a spicy garlic. It was really good, but I ate some of the seed garlic. I had to try it. I had to know how it tasted. And that is actually a hardneck variety, which we are growing here. So I did the cold stratification for these so that they could, you know, feel like they went through winter. And the funny thing is, we actually had a winter that probably would have just worked out pretty well for them on its own. But I didn't catch the freeze that we had, the snowstorm that we had, in order to get them the bulbs split. So these ended up going in the ground after that, but they seem to be doing really well. So excited about that. And then over here, I have some elephant garlic. And this is my first time growing elephant garlic. So it's looking pretty good. You can't really plant a lot of them at the same time, but they look really, really nice. It seems like the leaves are looking a lot healthier now that it's warmed up quite a bit. And then I just have some green romaine in here. I did put this broccoli. This is a broccoli rabe plant. I'm hoping it does something. It did end up getting attacked by a cabbage worm. I had to put some 7 dust on it because I just was not ready to deal with that. It is way too early in the season. So yeah, it's a little holy, but it seems like I got that off early and I haven't had any issues since. I think the plant was a little bit stressed when I put it into the soil, but now that it seems like it's getting established, I think it's okay. And then I have some curly purple kale over there. Purple kale, and I haven't eaten that yet. You know, it seems like it's taken a little bit to adjust. It's not really growing as quickly, but I'm sure it'll be fine once it gets established or it establishes its roots. We have green beans in this bed, and I decided to, now who ate my little green bean leaf? These slugs at night are ridiculous. You can see that they've topped like my green bean here. I'm pretty sure they ate one of my lettuces, but yeah, apparently they're taking like humongous bites out of like everything. And while they are leaving the majority of the plants alone, it's still a little bit annoying. But in this bed, I have jade green beans, which I have become a really big fan of. And then I have some Celine green beans. Those are like purple green beans. They're purple when they're growing. They're really pretty, but they do not stay purple when you cook them, and that's fine because they taste really good. So that is one bean I will always look forward to growing. It just has this like very like nostalgic green bean taste that I'm used to from when I was a kid, and I don't know, they just remind me of the green beans my grandmother made. So I really like those. I have some more green beans over in this bed. I believe I planted provider beans on this side, and then those are royal burgundy beans. I have some carrots from, you know, that I planted from before winter, and they're finally just kind of starting to do their thing. And then we have some snap peas over here, which too are struggling, have not started to produce anything just yet, but they also are having trouble finding their little trellis and staying on there. So I'm hoping that we get sugar snap peas as well because it has been a struggle. And then we're heading into April, so our temperatures are going to be picking up pretty soon. In this screen stock, I have nothing but onions. Now, I will say my onions, well, I'll say nothing but onions. I do have a few like flowers down here at the bottom, some nasturtiums, and then I planted some mullein, but it didn't come up yet. So I hope that it actually comes up because those seeds are really tiny and I feel like they can get washed away pretty easily. But onions, another thing that I just didn't do great with this year as far as like starting. I didn't start my onions on time, and while they are growing now, and I do believe we'll get some, I'm not really expecting a huge like crop of onions from this year's garden. The other thing that kind of went wrong too is I planted Texas grano onions. I got those seeds from the store, and now I cannot remember if they were Fairy Morse or Burpee, but not a single seed germinated. Need to talk about that. And then I think it was the Spanish white. I had very few of those come up. I believe these are those, which are in the strawberry beds, but next to no germination on those. I had some other red seeds that I think I had purchased from the store as well, and I believe those were like the red burgundy. Those didn't really come up. The only seeds that came up were the red onions that I purchased from Johnny's the year before, the ones that were in my garden that actually went to seed. And there was so many seeds. I literally just buried the flowers and let them come up. And this is how many came up, barring like obviously what I've transplanted out. I have some in this green stalk. I have some in that green stalk. I think I might have some of the white onions over here. And then the ones I have in this bed with the actual brassicas. Now, many of them I did not, because I was just at the point where it was like, for one, where are all these going if I try to separate them? Because there are some things that you just can't grow with alliums. And two, timing. If I was going to get the garden started, I had to pick and choose my battles. So I separated out some in hopes of getting some really nice size bulbs. And then the other ones, they'll do whatever it is they're going to do, right? And we'll take what we can get. I will use some of them throughout the season. If I have to use them as green onions, I'll do that, even though I have green onions growing in other places. If I have to pull them out as small bulbs, that is fine too. I'll do that, so that as I'm pulling them, it gives room to like the larger onions that will actually grow into the larger bulbs. These particular onions, the red ones that I'm going to have an overabundance of, these are called red Creole onions. I got those from Johnny's, and when I initially got them, I was not sold. And the reason I was not sold is because I felt like they were really small compared to the onions that I had purchased the previous year and that like I grew. But they grow differently, I'll say that much. They'll grow more like a flatter onion rather than a rounder bulb, and that is okay. They are very spicy compared to the other onions that I grew. But the positives, one, they seed immaculately and the majority of the seeds germinated, right? So that let me know I had a healthy seed, I guess, to begin with, even though some of them were apparently past whatever expiration they were supposed to be past. Even though a lot of them didn't really grow to full size, which was another issue I had, the ones that did grow, no matter the size, they actually cured really well. They cured extremely well, to the point that up until now, what are we in? The end of March. It's the end of March. I pulled my onions, I believe, in May, maybe late May, early June. I know it was earlier than the year before that. And very few of them, I'd probably say less than a handful of them, actually started sprouting. So the red onions, and maybe I'll post in like a clip just to show y'all, they should have sprouted at this point, I'm supposing, because they would have expected to be in the ground around like November. They're still good. My yellow onions actually lasted a pretty good while too, and I don't remember which yellow onion I grew the year before, but some of them, they lasted pretty well, despite the fact that they all weren't like super big, or maybe they didn't put on as much skin as some of the other ones. But they did last pretty long. More of those sprouted, more of those went bad than did like even the white ones that I grew. But it was all good. We still have onions. We went through the majority of them, but I still have some that are just fine up to this point. I don't know if I mentioned it already, but we have a passion flower plant here, which this year I'm trying out some teepees. I think these are bamboo. Don't quote me on that, but I do believe they are bamboo. And it's basically a new way to trellis, right, that I'm trying out. Passion vines, passion flowers, they're vines, and they do need something to trellis around. Now, last year I had them set up a little bit like bootleg, maybe not bootleg, but they were with these, and I had two of them in one pot. I think the pot ended up just being way too overcrowded. It just wasn't the best solution. I had to separate them, so I did put one on this end, the other one is on that end of the garden, and I haven't put that trellis up yet. But I think when this does fill out the entire teepee, is going to be really pretty. The one downside to passion fruit vines, they have one specific butterfly that literally demolishes the plant. So unfortunately this year I am going to have to spray and spray consistently if I want to get any passion fruit off of that. And it's unfortunate because it's literally the only plant I believe that they eat. But it's like, I don't mind feeding you, but you can't like eat the whole plant, you know? Like, I have to be able to get something. So we're going to definitely have to control that. I'm expecting them to come in pretty soon. And it's kind of sucky because the butterfly is really, really pretty. It's like an orange and black butterfly. But yeah, we just can't do that this year. I'm also trying out something a little bit different with trellising some of the tomatoes. So instead of putting everything in the bed, I'm trying something where I literally just grow some of the tomatoes on a pot in the ground, and I'm going to use the TP trellis along with the stakes to be able to kind of just connect the tomato limbs to the actual trellis. I'm probably going to add one more plant like right here to be able to maximize on this. And I'm thinking it might be like a cucumber plant of sorts, nothing too big, nothing too heavy, but I'm thinking maybe like a cucamelon will go really good like right here with these tomatoes. That way it can kind of grow around and then you know, give cover to like the whole thing, and then the tomatoes can kind of just grow up and I can stake them, you know, around the plant or whatever. We have invested in some blackberry plants this year, or over the last year I will say. This is a triple crown blackberry, and when I tell y'all, this thing is aggressive. When I first put it in the ground, when I first put it in the garden, I didn't realize like how far out the canes jump. It is a thornless variety, and you know, that's good for me, so I'm not getting stuck up like I do with the red raspberries. But these canes were like all over, rooting everywhere, and I cut them back before you know, the tree came back to life, or came out of dormancy rather. And I decided now that this is going to be like the permanent place for it, I'm going to let the canes kind of root up to a certain point here, so that like we can actually get, you know, a full blackberry like kind of area over here, and we can get, you know, a significant amount of fruits. But I wasn't sure what I was doing with it the other when I first got it, so I was just like, yeah, I can't have that all over. But now that I know, you know, like we have this designated area for that, I don't mind if they do that. Plus I want as much fruit as I can possibly get without it becoming like too overbearing for me. Blackberries are aggressive is what I will say, and I didn't put this in the ground for that reason. This particular plant, I have another one which I will show y'all, but this particular plant seems to be way more even aggressive than the Primark, which is the other one that we have. I have my banana plant over here in this little whiskey barrel. I don't know if this is going to come back to life this year. Again, this is another plant that just had a rough winter where I wasn't really even watering the plant. And you know, I guess maybe if it was in the ground it could have survived, because I have one that I have just kind of like as an ornamental on the side of the house that is coming back to life. But I think because this one was in the barrel, it's just not going to do anything. This is my other passion flower, and this is the incense. Yeah, so this is an incense passion flower. The other one is a maypop. Maypop is actually really cold hardy, so it can and will grow here. We're supposed to get fruit in the fall, but again, that's pending everything doesn't get eaten by the butterflies. This one I think is more of a tropical passion flower, and I'm pretty sure it's supposed to still fruit in the fall, but the other, it's not, I don't know if it's as cold hardy. Clearly it's cold hardy, but I just don't know if it's as cold hardy as the other one. Okay, so I lost battery power. I don't exactly remember where I left off, but I think I was talking about transitioning into or not transitioning, but also adding in vertical gardening. So I was saying that I had gotten like the raspberry green stalks when they had their Valentine's sale, I believe I got these are the blueberry ones. These were the Mother's Day sale last year, and then I think after that they had like a, or maybe actually no, the stone I got for, what was that, Mother's Day last year. And then I believe the blueberry were like the 4th of July or something to that effect, where I ended up getting 2 of those. So right now we have a total of 8 green stalks. My plan is to get 2 more, and I'm growing a variety of things in these. If y'all want to have like a separate kind of like what we're growing in each pocket, just let me know in the comments. But I'm not going to go through each of these individually, but I have a variety of cool season crops in there, and then some things that are kind of like spring, early summer. So they're looking really good. It's nice to kind of see them in their full bloom, with plants actually like blooming. I think I had gotten the stone ones last year. It was a little late for planting in them. Like I did plant some things in them, but definitely didn't get this kind of like visual that I'm getting now, early spring going into summer, because of just when I purchased all of them. So I've really been enjoying them. Watering them is definitely something I have to stay on top of. And I was like, I got some lettuces in here, which I'm extremely happy about. I have struggled to grow lettuces since my first year growing them, and I was determined this year to grow lettuce. So all right, so I guess after not recording for so long, I'm figuring out that we probably need to do some like equipment updates or something. Not so much my camera, but like the batteries that I'm using. They keep dying on me. But I was saying that just as far as like the lettuces go, I was determined to get lettuces this year. And one of the things I'm actually really happy with, I will say about this is an iceberg lettuce growing in the green stalk. And I have had struggles with growing iceberg lettuce in the beds. Largely, I'm not sure if it's been like spacing, if it's just been watering, or if it's been like fertilizing, but they definitely have been doing a lot better in this. I know one of the other things that I struggle with in beds with lettuces, which are slugs, and sometimes they'll get like really icky. The lettuces will get icky, and I may not want to eat them because the actual slugs are like in between, or they're on the lettuce heads, or whatever the case may be, and that just kind of grosses me out. So the green stalks have done really well with the lettuces, and I've been really happy with the amount of lettuces that I'm getting this particular year. So I probably will do a small like succession sow of the lettuces, but yeah, we're getting a good amount of lettuce, probably a little bit more than we can actually eat coming up at the same time, but I'm going to try my best to make sure I don't waste them. And then one of the last things I want to show y'all is kind of like what we did with our fruit row over here. So I have a Persian lime that I bought along with the Satsuma, and that's replacing the key lime for right now. I am going to replace the key lime at some point, but I think I'm going to need to keep it in the pot instead of putting it in the ground, because it can't survive like frost. I think it's maybe like 32 degrees and that's it, and we definitely get below that. I have a mango here, hoping that survives in this climate too. Mangoes technically are not supposed to grow here, but I do plan on getting the things that will help me have these trees here, have them in the ground, and have them survive this winter. So tree jackets, any blankets to wrap the roots, all that good stuff. We invested in 3 peach trees, beautiful peach trees, and these I actually got from Tractor Supply. So the 3 varieties of peaches that I got were the Reliance, I got an Alberta, and the Georgia Belle. Georgia Belle is a white peach. Like, you can't can it. But I absolutely love white peaches. They're one of my favorite favorite summer fruits. I can't wait for those things to come around every year. So I'm actually happy that I got this particular plant. I almost lost it. I'm hoping that this is not like disease or anything, because our grounds are so like muddy here, swampy, and I made the mistake of digging like too far down and putting in trees too far down when I initially put them in. And that one, I could just see it almost instantly, was like, it looked like it was about to like, you know, take on disease and die. So I wasn't entirely sure if these like openings are due to that, and like the tree did take on some disease, or if this is just, you know, like the tree expanding or whatever may have you. But I guess we'll find out when it actually fruits, because if it is disease, like when you get it's not root rot, I forget what they call it. There's a specific name for it, but it's a fungal disease that it causes from the roots being submerged in the water. It will actually show up in the fruit. So I'm hoping that that doesn't happen, like fingers crossed. But yeah, that's where we are with that. We definitely have peaches, so we're gonna be getting quite a few peaches this year, God willing, I guess. I haven't thinned this one yet. This one was still like needing to be pollinated in some places. Like you can kind of see like this flower is not died back as much. It does seem like it got pollinated, so whereas like these, you can tell the flower buds are about to actually like fall off. And once they all kind of like get to that point, then I'll come in and I'll prune, I'll start to thin the actual peaches. But you can see here, like, they're growing. And I'm just waiting for me to be able to do that particular tree along with this one before I start spraying them. I don't want to take any chances here with the fruit trees, because we just have way too many bugs here in the warm, humid, hot, you know, subtropics. And it's just like, I don't want to risk losing the peaches to like worms and that kind of stuff. I do have a couple of like yellowing leaves. Now, I don't know if that's because I've trimmed off quite a significant amount of fruit, but y'all can see since I trimmed them, the fruits are actually, they've been growing a lot quicker. So the tree is not working on a ton of fruit at one time. There's still a pretty significant amount of fruit on this for this to be a, you know, I'm pretty sure this has to be like a first year fruiting tree, because the tree is not that large. But, you know, I went in, I thinned quite a bit, and then I'll maybe in like another month or so, once I see which fruits are doing what, I'll go ahead and, you know, do some like final thinning to make sure that we get like the best quality fruits out of that. But once I have this one thinned down just a little bit, I'm going to come in and spray both of these. I watched a video and it just kind of suggested that you spray them at least once a month to avoid kind of like the like, I guess the peach borer and the worms getting inside the fruit. I'm also considering getting some surround kaolin clay to be able to make sure that the birds aren't eating away at all the fruit. I have this little Nandina shrub, which I'm in love with. It's a lemon lime Nandina shrub. I put some of those in between the trees. Anytime you're doing a kind of like a fruit hedge, it's always suggested to add in some actual shrubs so that they can take up some of the nitrogen in the ground, and so that you're not, you know, ending up with just leaves on your trees. I have my other blackberry plant here, which was struggling a little bit in the beginning. It still seems to be. Like, I don't know if y'all can see this. This keeps like, no matter how much I cut this down, this limb is showing like signs of disease. So it keeps moving down and I keep cutting it. And I don't want to like end up cutting it all the way, but there are places it looks like this leaf is actually like not budding, so that might be a sign, but it's still fruiting, which kind of makes me worry a little bit. So I don't know if maybe I should just leave well enough alone at this point so I don't mess with the fruit. But it is fruiting, and yeah, the leaves look good. I will say that for right now. I do see, what is this? I don't know if this is an assassin bug. It's one of the first that I'm seeing, or if it's a leaf-footed bug. I think it's an assassin bug though. So one of the first of the season. And then we have a fig tree here. So this is a Celeste fig. We have some little figs coming on. Now this seems to be completely fine. So, you know, I don't know if it depends on the tree or the area that the tree is in, but so far I haven't seen any issues with this particular tree here. I got the Celeste fig because that's the one that's supposed to kind of have like a honey type of taste to it. But we'll see what ends up happening with that. We also picked up a Santa Rosa plum, and I thought it would be nice to have like plums here. And I noticed we have a couple of like yellowing leaves on this too. So definitely gonna have to get to like spraying these pretty soon. That looks like it's showing some sign of, and that could have just been that one leaf. Maybe it's dieback. I don't really know. But, you know, it could be a little bit of disease. I don't know. Like, it is really hard to not have disease here on anything, truthfully, because just of the weather, the moisture in the air, humidity, that kind of stuff. So we have another one of those like lemon lime Nandina shrubs. And then what I did do, and I'm hoping that this plant actually comes back to life. Like, I don't think it's dead. It's been surviving all this time. But this is my Egyptian guava. It has yet to fruit, but clearly you can see it's been it puts on like new shoots yearly. But again, this particular winter has been like so cold that I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen with that. I'm hoping though that it does survive, and maybe being in the ground we can keep its roots a little bit warmer than it actually fruits. This is my dwarf guava. This has been in pots, but I did give it a larger pot this year. This one usually puts on leaves every single year, even though it looks completely dead. You can kind of see the new wood coming in down here. But this also has not fruited yet, and I think it's just because I don't care for the plants enough in the winter to not allow the leaves to die off. So they kind of have to restart every single season. And then over here we have a persimmon tree. This is a Fuyu persimmon, and I was a little concerned about this tree when I got it, but she is waking up. She's coming to life, and yes, I guess we'll have persimmons this year, so that'll be nice. So those are some of the changes that, okay. So those are some of the changes that we've made to the garden, y'all. It's been a very busy year, to say the least. I've been so focused on this project, along with like just other stuff outside, that recording really just has not been a priority. At some point I just had to choose sanity, and recording just was not adding to that, particularly when the videos just were not getting the views, the channel was not getting the engagement or the growth that I was hoping for. So I prioritized other things because the reward really wasn't worth the extended effort and stress, I will say, at that point. And that's just, you know, the reality of it. So I made the decision to focus on what I had going on in the background and to get this project done, because I do have a deadline to actually get it done, which I'm kind of like etching a little bit past right now. So I'm hoping for my own mental health and just sheer enjoyment of the garden to be done with all of this very soon. But that way we can focus on just growing and, you know, enjoying the seasons and what they bring each year. These are little seedlings that are all, for the most part, behind, but they are growing. So we'll see what happens with some of our like late spring, early summer crops. But, I'm not gonna not like try to grow them, because there are specific things that I want that you just cannot get at the big box store. These actually grew pretty fast, like overnight too. I did give them a little bit of fertilizer yesterday, and those are looking really good. I have some more seedlings over here that I've up potted, so all of these will pretty much live in these little I think these are they 3-quart or something like that containers, until it's time for them to go into the ground. But that's where we're at with that. And then the final thing that I've really focused on this year is flowers. I don't know anything about flower gardening, so I cannot answer or help really anybody with flowers, but I have made it a point to include them in pretty much every aspect of the garden this year. That is for my personal enjoyment, because I've really been just kind of falling in love with flowers, and really just for the overall beautification and adding some color, some different colors to the garden. So, that's what I've been doing. That's what we've been working on. And I hope you guys enjoyed this tour. Hopefully this is a welcome back to consistent recording. And I appreciate y'all as always for being here. Even though we took a break, as always, let's keep learning, sowing, and growing together, y'all. And I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.